Hello again and welcome back to the CNC-router. It has been a while since the last time I was here, but now when the shed project is kind of on hold, check the last video if you don't know what I mean. I came here and started this final assembly of this thing. If you haven't watched the previous videos, the CNC machine right here is my own design and my own build, and it's meant for making parts for this big ocean-going sailboat that I'm starting to build. And this machine has been in working order for a while now, but there is still some final installments and fiddling to do. The first and most important thing is that I have to dismantle some of these parts and put them together with thread lock in them. So if I push, for example, this part right here, you can see that there's quite a bit of play, and that's because there are few screws undone already. Then there is these rack and pinion systems that are not yet fully installed. There's still some play. And finally, I need to change the cable for the spindle, the shielded one, and I'm changing some connectors and stuff like that. So a bunch of small things, and I think this video will span over a bit of period of time. But I hope by the end of this video this machine should be in full working order if everything goes like it should. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do that now. There's plenty of videos coming this year. We're starting the boat build soon, and the shed is up already when this video comes out, or it should be. All other things have gone wrong. After we get the shed up and somehow finished, I think I will start making the parts, the machine being still in this place, which is my father-in-law's workshop. So I have now done the new shielded cable for the spindle. That's all in and installed. It's this thick cable right here. Now it's in the chain and all the way back there. And I really hope that it works. The other end is waiting right there. And about the shielding and the grounding, I did a bit of a research of that. Now I grounded the cable shield, this shielding which is inside of this cable. I grounded it to the end of the power supply. And now it's grounded there, but it is not grounded on the other end. So the other end is kind of a floating end. At the same time, I did put this green-yellow cable to these chains, and now I plan to ground the entire machine to the same ground with this electric box, so that the ground of everything is in the same potential. I did measure that these rails actually ground everything to the same. So if I take my multimeter and check the potential between the frame and the moving part, you can hear that they are connected. So this rail does connect these two parts, but I don't want that it is the only way the grounding works. So I'm gonna add this grounding cable to this frame and all different moving parts, so they are in the same potential for sure. So if something goes wrong, the electric cabinet will know that. And if there is some bigger voltage, it won't go through the rails and through the ball bearings because they can be damaged. But this is just making sure that everything is grounded properly. And of course it's a safety thing as well. You should ground this kind of metal structure anyway. Another thing I added was these emergency stop buttons. There are 4 of them and they are now connected. This is kind of a software emergency stop. So it doesn't cut any power, but it gives a signal to that controller that now the emergency stop has pressed, so it should stop everything down immediately. It's a single loop all over the machine, so if a wire is cut or something, it will stop in that case as well. Small things has to be done. I think now I'll take these Y-axis motor mounts and reassemble them. They're on the table right there, so let's do that next. Alrighty, now most of the things are done. So I attached these Z-axis rails permanently and also this Z-axis plate with thread lock in all of the screws. I forgot I hadn't installed this ball screw here permanently at all, so there was quite a bit of play and some screws missing. Now they are in. Now this is very solid, and now the new cable is connected to the spindle. And these screws were the first one I noticed that they came loose by themselves, so now they have quite a bunch of thread lock in them. This Z-axis should be now in working order. Also, I got pretty good result with these Y-axis things. There was a slight play with these axles and I just tapped a few marks. It gives kind of a small bump so that there is virtually no play with these now. I can't feel any play whatsoever, so that's really good. As you can see, everything is horrible mess and I'm gonna leave it that way. I'm coming back in a few days and finish these things. One thing I did for the electric box was to change this emergency stop button. This actually turns down the power of things. So I needed to change this for one reason, and that was because it needed to have two separate switches. First one I had temporary here, it had only one and it did work. So when I pushed it, it turned the power down, but in case when it was pushed down and I pressed the on button here, it override the emergency stop. So it turned everything on while I was pressing this button. So that was a little bit confusing and possibly dangerous. So I switched this for the model that has two of these separate switches, and now the second one goes around this power button, so nothing really happens when I push this. So that was a bit of a bug, if you say so. Now I've been doing these minor works for a couple of days. It's now Sunday, and last Sunday I was here. And during last week we got the spoil board here. So I think the next job is to kind of figure out where that should go. And now all the parts have been grounded to that electric box behind here. Then I drilled a hose to the either end to get the cables for that side motors and stuff through that pipe so they're not wobbling over here. Let's now try to take that spoil board here and figure out where that should go. It was a great find. It's a 40mm thick MDF board, which can be brutally expensive, but luckily I found kind of an excess board that had some damage on the edges. We just cut the edges off, and now it's perfect for this. It's in 3 parts because it is so heavy that you really can't move it if it was just one piece. So I could say that this machine is now ready to use. There is only one issue still to do, and it is these sensors. I have now 3 sensors working, and they seem to work very well while the spindle is going. You may remember that had the wire done wrong, so there was 2 wires wrongly soldered, and yeah, this kind of destroyed this one sensor, so I have to order a new one for that. But while I'm ordering a new sensor, maybe one extra as well, I will order an extension block for the motion controller, because now I have connected these sensors to the same input, so the motion control gets input that this limit switch has triggered from up or down from the same port, so it doesn't know which way it is. So I think I'll order that expansion thing, and then I can have more inputs to put all of these sensors on their own input port. Otherwise, these emergency stop buttons work extremely well. They're very good. It brings kind of additional security with this thing. It's now getting too late. I won't start the machine now to test the orientation of the spindle. So in just a moment, for you, for me, maybe someday next week, I'll come back here and put some additional spoil board test piece on here and make a program to plane it down so I can see if this spindle is oriented correctly. If it's not, that's a bad thing. It needs some shims or something in between here, which is kind of annoying, but I hope it's good enough. And the spoil board itself is now attached to this frame, and it's secured in there. I'm still not sure if this dust collector will work well enough, so we'll test that as well. But so far so good. It has been a long day, and everything looks good, except for this sensor. I'm looking really to do some real stuff with this thing, mostly the both parts, of course. So I started today by putting down this test piece of the same spoil board material here. It's 40mm MDF, and started to configure the machine. So there was a few issues. First of all, the spindle speed didn't match up. I did some configuration with the VFD, but now it's working. Now when I put the speed from the computer, the speed matches here, so that's good. Then I did a test program for planing this piece with this 50mm planing bit, which is kind of a scary bit. It's so large, and I just wanted to make sure that everything goes well before I cut anything with this. And when I was doing the test cycle, it turned out that something still did interference with these sensors, and they actually weren't these sensors themselves. It occurred when I disconnected everything from the box, and it's a strange issue. I think it's actually inside of that electric box, so now I just turned them off. I kind of don't really need them right now because I have programmed soft limits for the machine, and the software should check the limits before it starts. So I kind of disabled them altogether, for now at least. Then I put some antifreeze / coolant in this water to prevent any growth or something. I hope it works. Then I started planing this very slowly at first, which I know is the rookie mistake with these kind of things, because the slow speed tends to heat the bit too much. And now when I look at it after this job, there is just a bit of burn marks in that bit. So I think it was just too slow at the first run. But okay, the result is interesting. You can't see them, but you can feel that there is a kind of a small bump in every other of these marks. So that tells me that the spindle is a bit off. But when I measured it, it's actually less than 0.05 millimeters. So I think that's not a big deal, at least for now. And you have to remember that this bit is 50 millimeters. So it's a quite large bit. So if I do this with a smaller bit, like a 10mm bit, I think you can't feel anything. Very pleased right now. I'll come back tomorrow and finish this video, and I think we'll start with planing this main surface here. Maybe I'll do some test jobs on this first, but tomorrow we're starting to use this thing. This is freaking exciting. I am so pleased right now. I was a bit worried about the alignment, but it's okay. It's okay.
Alright, here we are checking out the results of the first planing pass. So smooth. This was kind of a test run. First I got a little bit conservative feed and speed, then I ramped it up by 200% for the rest of the surface, and it became even better. So now it was 10,000 RPM and 6,000 millimeters per minute. The machine is working great, and now I think I will get rid of this test piece and start planing the actual surface.
Test piece gone wrong. This is all learning, and I'm glad I do it now. It takes some time, but it's all right. This went very well. I have now some kind of feeling of the feed and speed to work with this birch plywood. The problem was that for some reason the Fusion didn't do these tabs, but only 2 of them in these, so there wasn't any tabs on this end. So when the router cut the inner part, this started to move, and yeah, you know the rest. But now I did a second attempt. Now I put tabs manually there and changed the orientation. So I will cut first this inside figure and then the outside. So that way it won't put stress on those tabs so much. Yeah, let's try it again. And here we have it. What a piece of beauty. It's absolutely perfect. Bit of a burn marks in these tight corners, so where the machine can slow down, and of course in these where the tabs were, so have to be aware of that. But otherwise, when I sanded these edges down, this is absolutely pristine. I think I'm gonna send this particular piece for my first patron if he wants to accept it. I am very, very pleased. This machine is now in full working order. I'm still going to do some calibrating and stuff. I will touch up that later videos maybe. But now I can comfortably start making parts. And I think the next thing I do is some furniture in our home and maybe the first pieces for the boat. I am currently doing digital lofting of the boat, and I think the first pieces for that should be in cutting condition soon enough. I still have to do some testing for the system that I'm going to use for laminating the frames, for example, but I think I will catch up that in next video as well, or one after that. Let's see what happens. The shed is coming up soon, I think, and everything is kind of moving forward. And I'm very pleased of these videos and the schedule every 2 weeks, because that gives me kind of a pressure, maybe the wrong word, but some kind of motivation to keep up with this project as well. So thank you for that, for you guys who spend their time watching these videos. Now push the subscribe, give a like, give me a comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!